Welcome to my most exciting video that I've put up on this channel yet. Hello and welcome to a new video. My name is Smriti, and in case you didn't know, I love to read books, but in particular I love to read translated books, and today in this video I get to interview Daisy Rockwell. Yes, that Daisy Rockwell who has translated over 10 books from Hindi and Urdu to English, and her most recent book, which is Tomb of Sand or Ret Samadhi in Hindi, won the International Booker Prize or the Booker International Prize in 2022. So she is an absolute icon. She is a huge patron of translations in general. What does that mean? Don't know what I'm saying because I'm too excited. But in this video, I should warn you before you go in, there is going to be a lot of background noise because we were allowed to conduct our interview only in a really noisy space with a lot of people going up and down. There will be times where I look at the camera or beyond the camera at a person going hey, can you speed this up and keep going. So you will get some of those looks, but the conversation in general was great and I hope that you enjoy it. So onwards to Smriti interviewing Daisy Rockwell. Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. This is a really special one because today I am sitting with the translator extraordinaire Daisy Rockwell. Hi Daisy, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you. Okay, so today we're talking to Daisy about translated Indian literature. So, Daisy, as a child, did you read a lot of translated Indian literature or translated literature in general?
Well, not translated Indian literature because I grew up in the US and there's hardly any translated Indian literature available there. But I did grow up on all different kinds of translated literature, my favorite being the Moomin series by Tove Jansson, which is written in Swedish but set in Finland. So there's a lot of great translated literature for children, and I like to think I was inspired by that in my later years.
That's wonderful. So, any other translated literature that stuck with you? Did you read the Russian classics or anything like that as a child, or what brought you to to become a translator? What was the journey that made you a translator?
Well, I mean, I have read and did read a lot of translated literature, but I think it never occurred to me to be a translator until I was in college, and I was in an advanced Hindi class. With everyone was at a very different level from each other, so I was the baby kind of in the class, and there were people who were native speakers, and were doing their dissertations on Hindi literature and things like that. But for some reason, we were all thrown in this room together. So our professor decided to have us do an exercise where we tried literary translation, and he just gave us a page each of some book. So I was given Mohan Rakesh's Andhere, Bandh, Kamre, which is a 1960s novel set in New Delhi, written in Hindi. And it was just one of those things where you suddenly feel like, wow, this is me, this is what I can do. So it was a very exciting feeling, even though it was just a single page. So I think of that as the origin moment of me as a translator.
Awesome. That's really interesting. I've always wanted to understand what makes people begin certain things, be it a translator, be it anything really. How did you begin? So thank you for telling us that story. Again, I would like to ask you, so when you came to India and you started with your translation journey, how has it been in general? Have you seen a change in terms of people and how they are more accepting or more, they read more translated Indian literature now, or was it different back then? How's the change sort of happened?
Well, I think the Indian translation landscape started to really change in the 90s. So that was when Penguin India started to bring out a lot of different, especially classics or modern classics in translation. And that I remember coming here during those years and being so excited by access to all these different literatures, because I read from Malayalam translations, Kannada translations, Tamil translations, and then Urdu and Punjabi. It was very exciting because all of these are huge literary traditions that some of them go back centuries, and you can feel the difference. They're not all the same. It's not like it's all came out of the same can or something. These are different traditions and they have huge histories. So it's very exciting to read literature in translation, but I don't think it really started to take off here like in a big way until maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago. I think there was really the big publishing houses and the little ones too started to make a more concerted effort to bring out translation, and I think that's become an ever widening phenomenon, and we see more and more translators that we've heard of. There are more and more big name translators, and like Arunava Sinha and other people. And so I still think we're at the beginning of the kind of an explosion in South Asian translation, and I'm excited about it.
Awesome. So, also, Daisy, you were the first Indian translator to win the International Booker Prize. Is that correct? First. Well, I know, but like the first translator to translate an Indian book to win the International Booker. There we go. Very long way of saying it. But how was that experience, and how has that changed much in your life in terms of how things have moved on henceforth?
Yeah, that changes everything in a way because the International Booker Award is just a huge honor and a huge award with a lot of visibility. So I think it changes everything for me, obviously, personally, as a translator. But I like to think it changes everything for all of us. Geetanjali and I both like to stress the fact that we are not alone, that we're not the only ones, that she's not the only great Hindi author or the only great non-English author. I'm not the only good translator. We come from a huge tradition, and we don't want the door to slam behind us when we walk through it. We want everyone to come with us.
That's amazing. And yeah, I think that generally seeing your book, Tomb of Sand and Red Samadhi, just being so loved internationally now, I think it's opening more eyes to just reading more Indian translated literature as well. So I've seen that on BookTube in general, where I'm seeing a lot of international crowds now, like reading Tomb of Sand. So like there's this girl in like Belgium reading Tomb of Sand, and there's a girl in like Canada reading Tomb of Sand, and all of that. So I think that is like really interesting to see these international people also reading it and consuming it. And then once they consume it, they just get so interested in like the writing, the process, and like the sort of stories that are being told, that they're trying to like get more books like these. So yeah, so I think it's a great, like as you said, you left the door open for other people to also come in. But yeah, yay! But also, what I was saying is that, like, in terms of, you've had a lot of like books that you've translated before as well. So, one of my favorites is the Gujarat Here and There, which by Krishna Sobti, which was an amazing book. How was that process for you in general? Like, what was your favorite book if you had to choose? I know it's like choosing between children, but like a process wise, or like just like the writing wise, which one was the most difficult? Which one was like the easiest? What was your favorite? Do you have any?
Well, I love difficult projects, even though they're painful. So, Tomb of Sand was definitely the most difficult and very painful, but also very rewarding. A Gujarat Here, a Gujarat There is also a difficult, though much smaller book, and I feel like it really trained me to be able to translate Geetanjali, Shree, like experimentation and difficult language. But then on the other side of the spectrum, I've translated two novellas by Usha Priyamvada. One of them is already come out. That's 55 Pillars, Red Walls. And that her style is very, very clear, very lucid. Beautiful, poetic, but simple, seemingly simple language. So That's also fun to do. And in fact, I translated that novel while I was translating Tomb of Sand because it was kind of a cleanser, like a breather, something, it's a little time out. And so sometimes I like to go back and forth between styles because it kind of keeps my translator muscles limber.
So, having translated, do you think that you yourself as a writer would have created a style? And is there a book that you've translated that was closest to your personal style?
Well, I think that translators are kind of like mediums, like we channel different authors' voices. And so that makes us very versatile writers. So, because we can write in all different styles. And, some people will say to me, like, oh, I can hear your voice in all of your translations. And obviously you do, because as we like to say, we translators wrote every word in the book, in the translated book. So my voice is there, but also my voice is always, I think, fused to the author's voice, and I think a lot of us like to do that. We're sort of like actors in the sense that actors like all different roles to try their skills with.
Amazing. So let's get to the recommendations aspect of it. So, with regards to Indian translated literature, is there other books that you've read recently or in the past that you always recommend? My favorite, of course, which actually kicked off my personal translation, reading Indian translated literature, was Tamas by Bhisham Sahni. I absolutely adored that book. I thought that it's so hard to read. It's painful to read, especially knowing the fact that a lot of these experiences he saw himself while he was coming. Right, that was the thing. I think that like that book really changed a lot of things with me and has really stayed with me. So, do you have like a book like that or any other recommendations in like Indian translation literature that in general would you like to recommend?
You do know I translated that, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very painful. Um, what I like to do. I mean, you could recommend by book, but since I'm a translator, I'm kind of a translation chauvinist. So I recommend by translator, not by book. So I recommend. It's hard to do this because online bookstores and brick and mortar bookstores don't set things up so you can find your translator that easily. You have to research them and hunt down their work. So of course, anything by Arunava Sinha, um, um, anything by the late Muhammad Omar Memon, who was an Urdu translator. I really recommend. He translated, I think, all of Nair Masood. He translated a lot of Manto. So I really recommend those two, especially. Jason Grunebaum translates from Hindi. He's a really great translator. So you have to kind of decide who you like. You should develop a taste in translators, and that's what I recommend. That you don't just think of the underlying book, but you think about who's bringing it to you, because translators are sort of curators too. We choose our lists and we have certain tastes.
1000%, and that is so true. And I think, like for example, for me, my automatic like translators, I go to Jerry Pinto, I go to you, I go to Arunava Sinha. I just love all the sort of books that you guys choose as well. So, how is that process as well in terms of choosing like a book? Is that interest, like do the authors come to you or do the publishers come to you, or is it a book that you've read in Hindi and then you're like, I love this book so much, I want to translate it? How does that work?
Well, nowadays, especially, I get given a lot of books. But I have very specific tastes, and I think many people do, many translators do. So I can't read every book that I'm given. I sort of evaluate. I read like a few pages. I can tell right away if this is a style that I'm interested in, because a lot of it for me has to do with use of language and style, and can if it level of difficulty, which for me I always want it to be high but not impossible, right? So we all have our ways of choosing these books, and in other translation environments, people don't choose the books as much, like in European to English language. A lot of the times the publishers hire translators. So the translators aren't picking their books as much. But in this environment, we almost always pick and choose our books. Yeah.
And actually that brings me to the translated like internationally. Are there any recommendations, anything that you think that like we should definitely look out for? I know that you're doing like you're promoting translators. So any translators in general and their work and their curation that you think that we should look out for that has really stuck with you?
Well, I sort of really into my some of my fellow shortlisted Booker people. So of course Anton Her was kind of a celebrity translator. Jeremy Tiang translates from Chinese, and he's very talented. I really recommend his Rouge Street I read recently. And Tiffany Tsang, she's done a bunch of books. Like she was also on the long list. She translates from Indonesian. Really recommend her work too. So those are my three that I've been recommending.
Yeah, I've read. Tiffany actually has written her own book as well, right? The Majesties. Yeah, so I've read that book, and she's going to be at JLF this year as well.
Yes, she's on a panel with
Yeah.
me. I haven't seen her yet.
Oh no, okay. So yeah, so that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much, Daisy, for all your recommendations and talking us through your journey, and enlightening us a little more about like the idea of translation and the work that goes behind it. So thank you so much for coming on to this small little channel of mine and having this conversation with me. And we will continue with more interviews and stuff coming at you. So we'll see you later. Bye. Alright, so that's it in terms of the interview. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you had any comments or anything to say, or you just want to scream with me in the comments because I got to interview Daisy Rockwell, please do that down below. If you have nothing to add but just want to let me know that you were here, you can put a daisy or a flower in the comment section so I know that you were here. And that's all for now. I do hope that you stick on, that you subscribe to my channel, that you press the like button, and yeah, that's it for now. I have a lot other videos coming up, maybe some interviews. I will see what I can do, but I'm just so psyched that I got to do this. And thank you so much to Jaipur Literature Festival, of course, for giving me this opportunity, for Daisy, who sat down with me for 15 minutes even though we were allotted only like 5 minutes of time, and Vaibhav, who is her mentee, who got me this beautiful time to talk to Daisy. And that's all. Okay, I hope you all are doing super duper well, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.